All right, let's dive into ancient Judah,
Oh, yeah.
where the drama is definitely high stakes.
Always.
And the kings, well,
Yeah, there's something else.
they made some interesting choices, to say the least.
For sure.
We're looking at 2 Kings 16 through 18.
Okay.
But today, it's all about Ahaz.
This will be good.
It's a period where kingdoms are clashing,
Right.
religious tensions are high,
Absolutely.
and Ahaz is in a tough spot.
You could say that again?
So what's so interesting about Ahaz's reign?
Well, I think it's that struggle for power and legitimacy.
Okay.
Like, imagine being a king in this era,
Yeah.
responsible for your people, facing threats from all sides.
It's a lot of pressure.
You're telling me?
It'd push anyone to make some desperate decisions.
And boy, did Ahaz ever. He's facing a two-front war.
Yeah, with Israel and Aram.
Right on his doorstep.
And instead of turning to God,
Right, the traditional alliance.
he decides to call in a favor from the Assyrians.
The Assyrians.
The Assyrians.
Took that out of the frying pan
Right.
into the fire.
I mean, weren't they known for being, well, a little aggressive?
A little. They were the superpower
Oh, right.
of the ancient Near East.
Yeah.
Infamous for their military and brutal tactics.
So for Ahaz to turn to them for help,
It was a gamble.
that's an understatement.
It really was.
What was he thinking?
I don't know. But the damage wasn't just political.
What do you mean?
This alliance,
Yeah.
it was a break from centuries of tradition and religious practice.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was a challenge to the idea that the kings of Judah relied on Yahweh for protection.
So we've got political maneuvering,
Uh-huh.
religious tension,
Yeah.
and a dash of international intrigue.
You got it.
And then it gets even wilder.
How so? The altar.
Oh, the altar. That's not just some decorating issue.
So what is it?
It's a window into Ahaz's head.
Okay, break it down for me.
All right.
Ahaz goes to Damascus to meet with the Assyrian king.
Tiglath-Pileser.
Yeah. Him
Okay.
sees this amazing altar and decides he needs one just like it.
I've been there.
It's like a king-sized impulse purchase.
Right.
What was he thinking?
Well, 2 Kings 16 doesn't really say why he did it,
Right.
but the action itself is really important.
Okay.
Altars in this time,
Yeah.
they weren't just decoration.
Oh, right.
They were the center of religious practice.
They showed a king's piety and his relationship with God.
So for Ahaz to build this new altar,
Yeah.
which was a copy of a foreign one,
Right.
and basically ignore the original bronze altar, which we know was super important,
For sure.
that's a big statement.
It really is. It shows how willing he was to change.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe even a little insecure.
Insecure.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay.
Small kingdoms like Judah,
Right.
they'd often blend religions.
Really?
Yeah, as a way to survive in a world run by big empires.
Huh. I never thought of that.
It was a balancing act,
Interesting.
trying to keep your own identity,
Right.
but also not make the big guys mad.
So is Ahaz just trying to, like, impress Tiglath-Pileser?
Maybe it's like, hey, I see your style and I like it.
Or was there something more to it?
We can't know for sure,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to think about.
I mean,
Well, was Ahaz impressed by Assyrian religion?
okay.
Did he think their military success meant their gods were strong?
Or was it just about keeping the peace with Assyria?
Maybe.
But then there's another possibility.
What's that?
What if this was about Ahaz's own faith?
Go on.
What if he was questioning his own beliefs because of all the threats around him?
Now that's something to think about.
So while Ahaz is busy with his altar,
Yeah.
things are going from bad to worse up north.
You could say that again, the northern kingdom of Israel.
Yeah,
It's like they saw what was happening in Judah and said, hold my beer.
Right. They really didn't learn from their neighbors, did they?
Not really, no.
What was the problem?
They kept straying from their covenant with God.
Even though the prophets were warning them.
Oh, yeah, they were getting an earful.
And still, they didn't listen.
It's kind of like ignoring the check engine light.
Yeah, you know it's going to be bad, but you just hope for the best.
And then, boom, the consequences hit.
And for Israel, that meant,
The Assyrians.
of course, the Assyrians, here we go again.
Yep, the same folks Ahaz invited to the party.
Only this time, it's not a party.
No, not at all.
This is a full-on invasion.
Right, they set their sights on Samaria.
Samaria, that was Israel's capital, right?
That's right, the heart of the kingdom.
And the Assyrians just surrounded them.
Basically, they laid siege to the city.
Talk about terrifying.
It was brutal.
How long did it last?
2 Kings 17 says 3 years.
3 years. Can you imagine?
Just stuck there, the fear, the dwindling supplies.
It's unimaginable.
The Assyrians, They were relentless.
So Samaria falls. What happens then?
Well, this is where things get really significant.
Okay. How so?
It's not just a military defeat.
It's more than that.
Oh yeah, it's a national tragedy, a turning point in biblical history.
Wow.
The Israelites, many of them anyway,
Yeah.
they're forced out of their homeland.
They were driven out.
Yeah, scattered throughout the Assyrian Empire.
That must have been devastating.
It was a period of profound loss and displacement.
Exile.
Exactly. And it would shape the Israelites for centuries to come.
So the Assyrians, they conquer Israel,
Right.
but they don't just stop there, do they?
Nope, they were strategic.
What do you mean?
They didn't just want to conquer the land.
Okay.
They wanted to make sure it stayed conquered. So they brought in people from other parts of their empire.
They replaced the Israelites.
In a way, yeah, it was a way to control the population.
And that's where we get that story about the lions.
Oh yeah, the lions,
These new settlers come in.
who don't know the lay of the land.
And they're understandably terrified.
Right. They don't know the customs, the god of the land.
Talk about a culture shock.
It must have been a wild time.
So what happens?
Well, the Assyrians, they realize there's a problem.
Right. Scared settlers, angry lions.
Not a great combination.
So what do?
They get a priest, an Israelite priest.
From the exile.
Yeah, and they send him back to teach the new settlers about Yahweh.
About the God of Israel.
It's like a crash course in don't anger the local deity.
Or get eaten by a lion.
Exactly.
That poor priest.
Can you imagine?
Oh.
Trying to explain centuries of belief and practice.
To a group who's just trying to survive.
Right. It's a fascinating example of how religions mix and change.
So they're learning about Yahweh.
But they don't forget their own gods.
So they blend them together.
Exactly. This hybrid faith is born out of a really unique situation.
It makes you think about how beliefs are always evolving.
Absolutely. Shaped by everything around them. Even something as dramatic as exile or, a pride of lions.
So we've got the north in turmoil.
Yeah, it's a mess.
But what's happening back in Judah?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Ahaz's son, Hezekiah, he takes over.
This is the son, right? After all that altar business.
The one and only.
And he's different.
Oh yeah, like night and day.
Really? How so?
Ahaz, he was all about, making the other empires happy,
Trying to fit in.
Right. But Hezekiah, totally different story.
Okay, so what does he do?
He's all about reform, getting Judah back on track.
Reform? Like, what? What does that even mean?
Well, he starts by getting rid of those high places.
High places? What are we talking about? Mountain resorts?
Not quite.
What were they then?
They were these shrines, altars, usually up on hills,
Okay.
and people were using them to worship, but not always Yahweh.
So other gods.
Exactly. It was a whole mix of beliefs going on.
And Hezekiah wasn't having it.
Nope, he was all about putting a stop to that.
Makes sense, I guess, trying to unify the kingdom.
Right, under one God, one worship.
But it wasn't just those high places, was it?
No, there was more.
Like what?
He also destroyed the bronze serpent.
The bronze serpent. Wait, isn't that like a big deal?
Yeah, like way back to Moses' deal.
Hold on, the serpent from the Exodus story. The one Moses made.
That's the one.
Why on earth would he destroy that? That's like a sacred relic.
It was a symbol meant to remind people of God's power.
Yeah?
But it seems like somewhere along the way,
Okay.
it became an object of worship itself.
So people were worshiping the serpent, not God.
Kind of, yeah, like they'd forgotten what it really stood for.
And Hezekiah wanted to put an end to that.
Exactly. No more distractions, just pure worship of Yahweh.
Wow. Hezekiah was serious about this. But it gets even more intense.
Oh yeah, the plot thickens.
He decides to stand up to the Assyrians.
Remember, the north is gone at this point.
Right. Israel's out of the picture.
Judah is surrounded by powerful empires.
It would have been easy to just give in, right?
Absolutely. But not Hezekiah.
He wasn't about to back down?
Nope. He had faith in God.
So when the Assyrians came knocking?
Well, it was more like the Assyrians came with the whole army.
Right, led by Sennacherib.
That's right. And Hezekiah. He could have surrendered.
Which would have been understandable.
Oh yeah, totally.
But he didn't.
He prayed for deliverance. He got ready to fight.
Talk about a David and Goliath moment.
Right. Tiny Judah standing up to the mighty Assyrian Empire.
All because of faith.
Faith and a whole lot of courage.
It's pretty inspiring when you think about it.
It really is. It reminds us that true leadership, it's not about taking the easy way out.
Oh.
It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when the odds are stacked against you.
Like Hezekiah did.
Exactly.
That's something we can all learn from, even today.
Absolutely. Facing our own giants, wherever they may be.
and remembering that sometimes faith and courage are the strongest weapons we have.
Well said. I think that's a good place to wrap up our deep dive.
It really is. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.